It's on here.
Sweet.
It's because we have such good conversation without hitting record.
I know. We just need to
record in the beginning.
We got to get it going. Yeah.
I'm excited for this. 'Cause this is like passion.
Yeah.
This has been good stuff.
Yeah.
It's been a good year.
So talking about crypto, right? That's what we're going to dive into today is cryptocurrencies and that kind of, I guess we ought to start with like clear back at Fed and stuff. But for me, crypto's actually pretty new. I have, looked into it before. Obviously, everybody's heard it on the news, especially during 2017. I remember hearing it, like listening to the radio, and it's like, Bitcoin went up another whatever, and just the awe that it had. And I'm like, well, at that point, it was too late to get in and everything else, I thought.
Yeah.
And also just didn't have the time to dive in and really look at it, or, the care to, I guess, maybe.
Yeah. And it's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird to think there's the digital currency. What's it backed by? What's it, almost some of the instant questions. People are like, what's it backed by? Well, I used to try to explain it. Now I'm like, what's the dollar backed by?
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think too that we're in such a different world than we have been, what I mean, up until now. So,
yeah,
that value's kind of relative to.
For sure. I mean, in my mind, cryptocurrency has way more actual hard value than the dollar does. I would put money into cryptocurrency well before I keep it in the bank account, but that's just because we've studied it over. We bought our first into Bitcoin for the first time when it was at $2,400 in 2017. I bought $8 worth. I wrote it up to $10 and I sold it.
Nice.
Sweet.
20% gain.
Yeah, exactly. Then watched it go from 2,400 up to 20,000 before it had its pullback. But I guess just getting into this and like explaining to people kind of the works. Like I think in this chat, we just want to talk about maybe some history. So the Fed, I think it's important. Like people need to know why cryptocurrency is the future. And gold and silver has its place. Cryptocurrency has its place right now in the digital world. But what has brought us to this? And then maybe where people want to put their fiat currency. Where do they want to put it? Is it Bitcoin? Is it Ethereum? Is it Cardano? Is it Luna? Is it some crazy one, StormX? I mean, is it, there's all these different ones. And then wallets, exchanges, just kind of just get into it.
Yeah, let's do it. That sounds good to me.
So
yeah.
The Fed.
The Fed. Dun dun dun.
Oh wait, there's something here. Oh yeah.
That's great.
Oh, but then, yeah, see, that's what the Fed does right there.
Yeah. Yep. Going burr. Is that what they say? Going burr, like the money machine. Brrr,
yeah. And they're good at it. See, and nowadays, they don't even have to print it. They can just put zeros in the computer. But taking it far, far back, we didn't want central banks. We didn't want government-controlled money. Because it doesn't make sense to have a currency that's not backed by anything, that's only controlled by a government. They can print, and what's it backed by? Well, we're going to have rampant inflation. And if you look at 1900 compared to today, obviously the dollar has less purchasing power.
Well, and I mean, even going along with government money, I think in the beginning, the government money was well-intentioned. I mean, even in the Constitution, it says that it has to be backed, right? And so when we first had, and I guess we could say too, there's been a bunch of different government currency. I mean, we talk about the dollar, but there's actually others, the continental and different things that have gone extinct that we don't even talk about. So within the United States, we think, oh, we have the dollar. Well, there's been 3 or 4 other currencies up until that point, not including individual like state currencies and that kind of thing. So when
Confederate currency.
Yeah, so when you really, which it's kind of funny because some of that, if it's collectible now, is like, would be a good investment. But even looking at like Zimbabwe, I saw a thing the other day where, and I don't remember the year that Zimbabwe went from having sound money to just blowing it off the chart, having hyperinflation. But over the course of that year, a dollar was worth something. Like you could actually, it was worth quite a bit. A Zimbabwe dollar was worth quite a bit. By the end of the year, you couldn't buy anything with like $1 billion. So it's interesting to see once that decoupling happened, and I don't know, we always use Zimbabwe as the role model, I guess, for we could talk about Venezuela too. But I think governments stay in check to a point if it's backed by gold and silver or backed by something that isn't infinite, I guess. Once that decoupling happens, it seems like it just goes crazy, which is what we're witnessing now. I mean, it's been decoupled for, since the 70s, basically?
71, when Nixon took us off the gold standard.
Right. So, but now, I mean, you can kind of you can see how governments and Federal Reserve and leaders of governments can just say, well, we can print more. It just gets out of hand. And it's easy to justify. It's like, I guess at our house, if you're using a credit card, it's easy to justify like, hey, well, we can go out on a date tonight. It's not a big deal. If you do that over and over and over and over and over again, then it makes it easier to justify and it gets away from you.
So you mentioned sound money. So when you say sound money, you're talking backed money. It's, sound, hard, are those synonymous?
I think, and I don't know. I mean, the best, we talked about this last time, I think the best way to learn about this stuff in an easy way is Mike Maloney's Hidden Secrets of Money. I mean, he goes into what money is, he looks at past money, looks at past fiat currencies, like the guy's literally spent his life studying it.
Yeah.
And then he goes into the Federal Reserve, the fractional reserve banking system, and kind of all how that works. But I think sound money would just be something that I guess is backed by something. It retains its value and its purchasing power over time. Yeah. So we can look at the dollar right now. Next year, a dollar is going to be worth less than it is now.
So sound is going to be restrained. So they're going to restrain the supply, correct? So if the dollar is the dollar, which it is, and it has rampant supply, they're just printing or putting the dollars in, then it has less purchasing power in the future. So as far as the soundness, or you hear hard and easy money, or hard and soft money. So easy money is just the dollar. It's just printed. It's the same with the peso in Mexico. And then I think it's important to know that historically, civilizations have fallen in regard to their money hardness. So you had Rome fell when they actually started to devalue their monetary system. They started to make their gold and silver smaller and smaller and smaller. Or they go away from it completely and they say, well, your copper coin is worth the same as your silver coin. And so then the government comes in and they say, hey, it's the same value. We're telling you that it's the same value, even though it's not the same value. Weimar, Germany, same thing. Over a 10-year period, they just started to decouple from the idea of having hard money. They started printing more and more. Within 10 years, you can buy, with a German mark, you can buy some bread. Now with 1 trillion German marks, you can't buy a loaf of bread.
Yeah, and you see the people with the wheelbarrows full of money and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I heard in I think it was Weimar, Germany, like at the height of that, you could buy an entire city block with like a couple ounces of gold, because, which I still don't 100% understand that, because you would think that the value of one hard asset to another hard asset would still kind of, but just the money system had collapsed to the point that there was so much value in hard, tangible assets, I guess.
Well, I think that's why the preppers are like, hey, have junk silver. The 1960s, 1970s dimes and everything, they're 90% silver, they're not. But if everything collapses, you have something hard to hold on to. It's like, hey, this silver has value, this gold has value, platinum has value. And today, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and they really derive their value from that limited supply. And I think that's, if we look in the past where we print and print and print and there's no supply cap, well, what is a dollar if there's a gajillion of them out there?
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Getting sent out in a stimulus payment tomorrow or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's tough to look at it because from the capitalist standpoint and the socialist standpoint, if you're just taking them both apart, it's easy to look at it and go, from my standpoint, I look at the socialist aspect and I go, you're taking my future, which means you're taking our employees' future. You're taking my kids' future. Because you're giving something away that doesn't even exist. But then they can switch it around and then go, well, from your capitalist standpoint, you want people to be poor.
Yeah.
No, I actually think abundance exists to the point where we can all live a great life. So it's tough.
Well, and capitalism has been so distorted in our current environment. I feel like, with along the lines of the stimulus stuff and the bailouts and everything that the government's been doing, and this isn't even a recent thing. I mean, even back to the 2008 thing and everything else, they were bailing out banks and institutions and everything else. Well, that's not capitalism.
Yeah.
If those banks were insolvent or those businesses were insolvent, then they should have gone away, and new people that are more efficient and smarter and know how to solve those problems better come up in the place of that, and it creates a new, better system.
Yeah.
Whereas now we have a whole generation, and probably two generations, that think of capitalism as kind of this relationship between government and big business, and the government takes tax money or prints it, and gives it to large crony capitalist institutions, whether that be through oil lobbies or, we saw the big things for Amazon and Walmart and, here recently, then, so everybody's looking at that and going, well, give me some of that.
Yeah.
Where's my money? Where's my bailout? Or we're sending it overseas, and so they're looking at that and saying, well, big business is bad, when it's not true capitalism. I've heard it been called crony capitalism, because they're in cahoots. And so,
and I don't even like to put the two together. I don't like to say crony capitalism because it's not capitalism at that point. It is cronyism.
Yeah.
Totally different.
Yeah.
When the government gets involved in who is going to succeed and who is going to fail, well, I think it's all going to fail.
Yeah.
Because you can't put those people in that situation. Now, as their constituents, we're allowing this to happen. We're voting them in or whatever. They get in, and then we're allowing them to make these decisions. But, why is it okay that, just throwing out administrations, why is it okay that an Obama administration takes over GM?
Mm-hmm.
For a time, essentially Obama was the CEO of General Motors because they bailed them out. Let them fail. Let someone like Tesla come in, let someone like Ford come in or whatever, and buy that out and run it more efficiently. It's not up to the government to decide who wins and fails in a free market society. In liberty and freedom, the government doesn't decide that. The free market decides that. But we don't live there anymore.
Yeah. Well, and I think And it doesn't. I think, we've seen the majority of those bailouts and things go to the big corporations and banks and Wall Street and whatever, but nobody's immune from a government subsidy.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, whether you're getting a stimulus check, whether, now our healthcare pretty much is all subsidized to some point. Even I look at farmers, I come from a farming background, and so I'm not bashing on it, but there's always farm subsidies or subsidies for other kinds of businesses. So capitalism is kind of dead.
I agree.
We keep talking about we don't want to be a socialist country. Sorry, we're there.
We are there.
Yeah.
When the government decides who shuts down because of the virus,
yeah,
that we're there.
Yeah.
We're in a socialist system. We're not in capitalism. We're not in free market anymore, which actually shows to the strength of Bitcoin, shows to the strength of cryptocurrencies, because that is a transaction that's made person to person without that central entity